name's J.C. McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Welcome back to Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. Today we have another, I'm not going to say wonderful guest, but a different kind of guest today, because you may recognize his voice, but you may not know his face. I'm just going to have him say just one little thing before the camera goes on him. I don't want the camera to go on him yet. Okay, just to say something familiar that people would recognize. Could you do that?
I certainly can. You're listening to The Quiet Storm on 89.9 WQTQ-FM in Hartford.
Oh, I know. Most of you know that voice. Yes, it's Tom Smith. And we have him as a guest today. And I am so happy to have him here. I've been trying to get him here for a very long time.
Years
Years since I started this show.
I was a child. I was a child and you were a child now.
So today we have got him on the show, and I am so happy to have him here. We're just going to talk. I loved radio. When I was a little girl, radio programs were still prevalent. They still came on a lot. Well, up until the time I maybe been 6, 7, 8, I don't know. Radio was still going on. Soap operas were on radio. Arthur Godfrey was on the radio. There was this soap opera. Her name was Molly somebody that all the women used to, that stayed home used to listen to. We listened to The Shadow on radio, and The Long Ranger on the radio. Roy Rogers. So we listened to all those things on the radio. My mother would put on the radio when we went to bed in the evening, and we would hear these things, and they were very nice, and we got right into it. It was so exciting. But television had just started coming out, really. So we were still kind of into the radio. And sometimes I would turn on the radio and turn on the television. I would look at Arthur Godfrey on the television and hear him on the radio, too. So that used to be something I used to do just to do.
Simulcasting.
Yes.
You're ahead of the game.
Yes. So now we're going to talk to Tom and talk about his life, and we're going to dig a little bit. Talk about his life and his career in radio. And he is a Hartfordite, born in Hartford.
Yes.
Born and raised in Hartford, just like myself. So we probably have a lot in common. So, Tom?
We might be related.
Yeah, who knows? That's right, who knows?
That's true.
So,
yes.
The first question I have to ask you, just tell us, first tell us about the radio. Didn't come first, but you taught, you tell us about what high school you went to and that kind of thing. Just flow.
All right, just flow. We'll start off with the high school.
Sure.
Okay, grew up in the Charter Oak Rice Heights area in Rice Heights, and went to went to the Moylan Wilson Grammar School back then. McDonough is now. Then Hartford High. Started Hartford High in '62, so I'm telling my age. And high school. High school wasn't just high school for me, because it was an interesting experience in the sense that I had gone to school from kindergarten through high school with the same basic group of people.
Yes.
It was just like they just sort of supplanted us year after year in the same classes. And so, it was a diverse group, but I was only fly in the buttermilk for the most part.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bothersome. It was just, that's the way it was. And, was active in high school, band, orchestra, chorus, stuff like that. Student council, student government, things like that. And then ended up, thinking I was just ordinary, because I'm just ordinary. And then was given a lot of scholarship money to go on to college.
Oh, and you were just ordinary, huh?
Yeah, it was just ordinary.
Okay.
And so, well,
Just to yourself.
Just to me, I was.
Yes.
And so went off to Central into Britain. Got accepted to a lot of places, but money was tight. But the scholarship money that I received paid for 4 years of college.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
it was funny when my mom was, when mom and dad were, downsizing and going to senior housing. They gave me this box, and my FAF forms were still, my FAFSA forms were still in the box, unfinished. I'm like, wow, I didn't have to pay any money. I had no loans. So that was really fun. Went to Central. I was going to become a lawyer or an architect. And somehow I wanted to be a musician as well. It ended up saying, I want to teach. But I think that was something that was inspired or instilled in me as a young person to go into teaching. My grandmother on my father's side was a teacher. She had graduated Harvard way back, I guess, when W.E. Du Bois was there. I don't know, long time ago. But her friends were teachers, and so I grew up, knowing her friends who were teachers. But they never pushed it, but they just sort of inculcated it into me. So the end of, toward college, well, I was like, what am I going to do? So I decided I would teach, applied one-to-one job with the Hartford School Systems, and got the job and began teaching reading at Hartford High, which was my alma mater, and I was so happy until they were closing. I was at the Annex on Washington Street at the time, and for 4 years, so from 70 to 74. Then they were closing the Annex because the population for freshmen had dwindled. I was, set to pack up my boxes and stuff like that and move to Hartford Public High School on Forest Street. They were shipped to Weaver High School. Everything, I was being transferred to Weaver. I was, to say the least, disappointed because I wanted to stay at Hartford High because that was, if you went to Hartford High back in the day, you had the sense of belonging. You just, your spirit was there. Everything you wanted to do was for Hartford High and Owl, the blue and white. And to go to Weaver was sort of treasonous it was just like, no.
I would feel the same way if someone sent me to Harvard High.
Oh, you went to Weaver?
I'm a Weaver. Yes. I'm a graduate of Weaver. So I would have felt exactly the same way that you felt. But we were talking about, all right, you got to Weaver, get to it, and the culture.
It was so different. I mean, there was a big difference. It was a cultural shock to me. Hartford High at the time was still quite diverse. And when I went to it, it was very diverse. It was, 30, a third. It was a great mixture of people. But to go to Weaver at the time in 1970, well, the flight had taken and the population of the school at Weaver had changed a great deal. The culture had changed. And I didn't want to go there. I just no, what am I going to do? This is going to be too many black children. What will I do? Not that I didn't know I was. It's just that it was just, how do you teach? I mean, how do you teach? Well, the thing of it is, it was heaven. It was the greatest experience with the students for me, because you could actually get down and just say exactly how you felt. There was an understanding. The the curricula that was, you could enlarge in it. There were some differences between the two high schools, and I felt that Weaver was like a very nurturing school, whereas Hartford High was like going to Harvard, or you get it, you have it, it's on you to grab everything. But at Weaver, you could just, the work with the faculty was just like collegial. You talked about the kids and how you can enhance their educational, their foundation, their learning, It was marvelous. So my 33 years at Weaver were great. I mean, they were all great no matter what, but I really excelled there. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, we're going to come back to that, but right now we're going to just break for a little while and go to commercial, and we will be right back with you with Tom Smith. See you in a moment.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.
Welcome back, and we're back with Tom Smith. I love that, Tom Smith. You know, I don't have to figure out the name. You know, today you have to figure out the name and say, oh God, please let me say this name right. But Tom Smith? Oh, isn't that just rolls off my tongue?
Oh, Cleo.
So, Tom Smith, we're back with Tom Smith.
I have everybody, for instance, it's always both first and last. It's never just Tom. It's always Tom Smith. I'm like, that's my whole name, Tom Smith.
Tom Smith. That's right. That's right. Before we get back to your radio experience,
okay.
Let's start it out with this. We both, when we were children, used to listen to the radio.
Yes.
And there was some things, and your experience at Hartford High and my experience at Weaver, both were diverse.
Yes.
Because Weaver was not a predominantly black school
right.
then. It was predominantly Jewish and black.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still dominant. And that was, I graduated in 1965. And just 3 years later, it was totally black. It was predominantly black. That always amazed me in that short time how
mm-hmm.
it changed.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Weaver, even though it's still predominantly Jewish, there were more black people than I'd ever seen in my life. Coming from Northwest Jones,
yes.
there wasn't that many
there. Yeah.
And that was still a Jewish school,
mm-hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
And you go to Weaver, and you got people from all different schools in Hartford,
yeah.
and oh my God! So now you're about to get laughed at because you talk funny.
Oh yes,
you talk funny. Now you talk funny. You don't talk. You acted white, you know.
Oh,
but,
please don't go.
Don't go there.
No,
I think that was an experience that I had. And also my parents, my mother,
mm-hmm.
since she was brought up in the Hartford school systems and went into foster care. So she was basically
mm-hmm.
raised by white folks.
Okay.
So, and she spoke differently. All of her siblings spoke differently. They laughed at them all the time. And we were not allowed to talk with, we couldn't use slang.
Yeah.
And when you spoke, you had to speak with complete sentences.
Absolutely.
And yes. I remember that my aunt pulled over to the curve once and told my sister to get out because she said, if you can't speak in complete sentences, you get out of my car.
Wow.
And so we had to sort of speak that way.
Yeah.
And
standard. It's just standard English, yes.
But when I got around
yeah.
a lot of other kids that looked like me, they made fun of us. At first, they made fun of us. They made fun of us until they found out we could fight.
That's always the case.
Then we were okay.
Yeah.
We were okay. And
yeah.
I remember someone saying to me when I was in Jones, she said, yes, my mother talks about you. She said, but Cleo, you're one of the good ones. And so I said, thanks. And then I couldn't really figure out what that meant. Does that mean my mom and my dad and my uncles aren't one of the good ones? What does that mean? I couldn't figure out what that meant. So by the time I got up to my classroom, I was insulted.
Yes.
And I never told her, because she was a kid like me. She was listening to her mother.
Right.
Her mother told her that.
She's one of the good ones.
I never went back to her and said anything, but so that's the kind of situation that we were in back then. And I'm going to bring
up... Because you were different.
Because you were different. You know, I think Stan once told me that he had that same kind of situation. Sure. If you speak a little different.
You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. Your deportment is different. The thing of it is, you had manners and a good rearing, and at some point, people felt it was off-putting that you were trying to do something, and it wasn't that you were trying to do anything. It's just you were reared to be accessible to everything. It takes reflection to get to that point. I mean, at first you're like, I don't know. What do you mean? I'm one of the good ones. I mean, what does that put you? But I do understand it thoroughly, because later, when I was in the classroom, and then working and teaching, and kids go off, they want to go to college and this and that. So you actually begin to have to write recommendations. You work with the counselors, and one of the counselors said to me, "You must have been on the good list." And I was sort of like, I'm a grown, good list. He said, yeah, you give in school, for some reason, people do this. They categorize, you're either on the good list or you're not on the list at all. And if you're on the good list, your chances of advancement are greater. And I'm like, that's so... It incensed me. Of course, I didn't speak out about it. I just internalized it, and I said, you know what? Any child that comes through my classroom, I'm going to make sure that they never have to prove themselves. You'll just be.
Yes.
You'll be content with being, but you'll have the confidence to know that whatever is said or done, you be steadfast in who you are, but know where to get the answers, know what questions to ask, and never be ashamed that you have to explain why you are the way you are, because that just bothered me totally. It still bothers me.
But when that comes to you as a child, you don't know how do you process that?
It's true.
You can't process it. It's just something that stays inside of you.
There's no manual for...
No manual.
That's
right.
There's no guidebook. There's
nothing. And I'm
your book.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to this is old school concepts. This is Amos and Andy on the radio.
Yes.
And I remember hearing Amos and Andy on the radio, and I don't know whether it was taped, because this was a long time. I don't know.
It's probably live.
It could have been live. And this Amos and I thought they were black people, and how they talked and how they acted. And I, in some ways, I might have been a little ashamed of how sometimes they portrayed us. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't stupid. No. My mother wasn't stupid. My dad wasn't stupid. Mm-hmm. And they didn't talk like this. But the way they portrayed us was this stereotype person that was insulting. And that's another thing you internalize as a child, and you don't know how to express it at all.
No.
There was Amos and Andy, and when they came on television, they sounded the same way, only they were actually black. They were actually black, and they always had the big butt person and the clown and the person who always had like the kingfish person.
Sure.
But the kingfish person was just like the Ralph Cramden person. They were almost identical.
Yes.
You know, Ralph Cramden and Kingfish were identical.
Yeah.
I can't see any
They were-
difference
they were
in.
bigoted men.
Yes.
With bigoted, I mean, there's a whole...
and narrow and-
narrow and everything. Yeah.
And the way they treated their wives were
Yeah.
the same. But the way they portrayed the black wife and the grandmother with the big butts and the sassy and the talk, that was I didn't like that when I loved watching it, but I kind of didn't like that.
You didn't like the caricatures.
No.
And because all they did was reify. Ooh, big word. All they did was reify. All they did was keep the stereotype alive. They never did give you an opportunity to say this is just maybe a piece of a cultural dynamic. It's not the entire cultural dynamic.
Right.
And so, because in radio and television, they do, in a way, or back in the day, they still do too, probably today, they pigeonhole so that you have to sort of fight getting beyond whatever is being portrayed and whatever is being given to you as this is the image. And I think that's the hardest thing. And because people of color can never lose being of color, Amos and Andy worked well because it was white men portraying or pretending to be black. That can be done. I mean, if you've ever watched the Al Jolson movie, one of the reasons that Jolson became famous, not so much because he was Jewish to begin with, and so at that time in movies and television, the industry was not that accepting of them.
I have to go.
It's time.
It's time to go to another commercial, but we'll be right back to finish up with Tom Smith and hear a little bit more about Al Jolson and how he got into the radio. I'll be right back with you.
Oh my God, where's the time go?
The folks at Cull Books in Hartford want to remind parents, kids need to exercise the most important muscle in their body, the brain. How do you do that? Read. What happens? Well, let me tell you. The imagination soars, the creativity blossoms, the world opens up, and the need to be entertained by outside forces diminishes. Don't believe me? Try it. You won't be sorry, and in time, either will your kids. Cull Book cares about your child's literacy. Join Miss Cleo every week on Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner online at accesstv.org.
These are the monsters of the road. Ever drive alongside a tractor trailer in the rain? Scary. You're hoping they don't change lanes. Now they see you, now they don't. This monster can crush you in an instant. They may be insured for millions, but you're not thinking of that in a dangerous situation. I'm attorney Jeffrey Dresden. Have an accident, you know what to do. Because this is what we do. 24/7, 11/22.
welcome back. And we were sort of in the middle of Tom telling us about his perceptions about Al Jolson.
Well, we were talking about the whole idea of
Okay, go ahead.
race and stereotypes on radio and television from way, way back in the day in the 50s, 40s. And I was saying how Al Jolson, minstrelsy was what got those who were not white from America, you know, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, minstrelsy, blackface, black talk, dancing, and that's what got them to become white. They would go into blackface or black dialect. They would gain popularity by making people laugh, and then little by little they would remove the blackface and they would become stars. We can't do that. We put on blackface, we take off the paint, guess what?
Still
It's
black.
Still black. So that, you know, it was really, I thought it was offending too. Even as a kid, but, you know, of course, because it was on television and folks were, you know, there's only one television in the house.
Right.
You had no control over that
That's
like you
right.
have it now. So, you know, it was watched, but it wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. I never enjoyed other shows like that, like Dynamite, the Dynamite Kid.
That show really got to me. I want one other person I want to talk about.
Yes.
That really used to. I liked him, but it made me sad. He made me sad,
Ooh.
and that. Let me.
You
Fetch
got
it.
it. Oh, Step and Fetch It.
Step and Fetch It, and he was on the his name the Irwin show. Stu Irwin's show.
We're telling our age, you know.
I know. He was on Stu Irwin's show, and he would just be jumping and you know, and all of this, and he had no family, he had no girlfriend, he had no.
Yeah.
It was just him and the Irwins.
Yes.
He had nobody.
Right.
And he was going around there smiling and stepping up and that. I just never understood, and I would watch Stu Irwin every week.
Now, did you ever notice the fact that he always won? He always got his way. He always manipulated that family. It was something that we probably laughed through it because his buffoonery was so way over the top. But his portrayal of minstrelsy made it possible for him to survive in those conditions. It's sad. I mean, yeah, I'm taking it because I'm looking back at it. But at the time of watching it, I didn't think that either. I just thought it was strangely funny. Strangely funny.
That's the word,
Yeah.
strangely funny.
Yeah.
So I don't remember situations, but they say in some of the folk tales that I present and read,
Yes.
it is a person, a slave, manipulating the situation so he gets his way or she gets her way all of the time. And it's with the male, it's the manipulation of the master and the people around him. So he ends up not doing as much work as
Joel Chandler Harris, Brer Rabbit stories,
Yes,
those kinds of things.
Right.
And it's interesting that you should bring this up. I mean, you're taking from TV to radio to books to myths to legends to stories to fairy tales. Bruno Bettelheim, I believe, is
oh yes,
the awakening of moral imagination through fairy.
girl, you
Well read. Yes.
The enchantment of
yes.
Oh yes,
Because
yes.
because those particular stories, and even this, perhaps, I mean, even these stereotypical early radio and television programs, you have to, if you're watching or listening radio or television, you basically take sides. Whatever is inside of you will root for the hero or the heroine, and with hope, almost biblically, you're going to pick the character that you most identify with, who will be in the moral right.
Right.
You know, so
Yes.
you know, the tortoise and the hare. who are you rooting for, the tortoise or the hare? Most of us felt sympathy for the tortoise. Like, oh, he's. But those are the things that give us moral compass. And hopefully, I mean, maybe, I don't know, these Step and Fetch It and Amos and Andy and all those, Beulah and all those stories in the stew. I don't know if they gave us moral compass or not, because I never really went back to really investigate and do research. But I think that they did provide for us a lens for which we could guide ourselves, perhaps. I mean, rightly or wrongly. I mean, that's what we're going to do anyway. I don't know. But anyway. You wanted some more information before the time runs out.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get into. I'm gonna put this because I really want to know how you got into.
How I got into radio?
How you got into radio?
In around the late 70s, early 80s, I was teaching at Weaver, and a buddy of mine was in charge. Well, I knew other people who were running the radio station, but this particular guy, we hung out where he was, Paul Robertson, and he was like, we need to get the kids to do some weather, some news, and some sports. Just 7 minutes twice in the afternoon after school. Would you help them write? Because at that time, there was this huge teletype machine that just spewed out pages and pages and pages of copy. And the kids had to go through and find a national piece, a local piece, some sports, some weather, and something else. And I had to make sure they fit it into a 7-minute segment. Because, time is money, television, and time, and da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. So I did. One day, the kid didn't show up. And Paul said, well, you can do it. I'm like, no, I can't. He goes, yes, you can. I'm like, no, I can't. We went back and forth. He goes, well, you got 15 minutes, and you got to do the little segment for news, weather, and sports. So I did it. And then subsequent to that, it was fine. And then we happened to go down to Howard University for a homecoming or something like that. And we're sitting, listening to, they would pipe in WHUR in, we were in the hotel at the time when they had the hotel. He goes, yo, we should do a quiet storm too. We should bring that to Hartford, because at the time the station would go off around 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock here in Hartford. So we did. He said, you could do that. I'm like, no, I can't. He goes, you know music. I'm like, yeah, but it's just what I like. He goes, well, guess what? Do it. I'll give you a 2-hour slot from 6 until 7 or 6 to 8 or something like that. And so I did it reluctantly. And then the rest was just all of a sudden it became me. It became a thing. We just kept growing and growing the station. And then when he left in 94, I was asked to take over along with Connie Coles and Shirley Minifield.
But none of these people said anything about your voice?
Probably. But again, what do I know? It's my voice. Do I hear my voice? At first, it was very disconcerting to hear oneself on the radio. It's like,
yes,
oh my gosh. Then after a while, you become comfortable. I mean, I know what I can hear myself as I speak, but I don't know what it sounds like to others, because that's basically, it's my voice.
But from the first time that I've ever heard your voice,
yes,
it's a very calming voice.
That's what everyone says.
It's a very calming voice. You could be, doing something and being upset and everything, and your voice will come on, and it's so calm, and
everyone says
you just
that.
kind of relax.
Just
so you know it must be true.
It must be true. I don't deny it. I don't refute it. I don't do anything. I just talk. I mean, people will say, you sound just like the radio. I'm like, what did you expect me to sound like? Minnie Mouse or something like that? It's my voice. I also sing. Yeah, I sing. I mean, I don't sing regularly anymore, but yeah, I'm a trained vocalist.
So, and you must have known you had some kind of voice, so you were a trained vocalist.
Again, you get lessons, and you just do. I mean, blessed life. I had free vocal lessons at the West Hartford Conservatory of Music, because my piano teacher and my mentor was Gordon Stearns, Dr. Gordon Stearns, who was the minister of music, Yale. This man was phenomenal. It turns out this man was good friends with Robert Frost. They grew up together. And so, you know, like, it was just, but he said, oh, you got a great voice. I'll give you lessons. Turns out that another friend that I know, we were both being pushed into music by Gordon Stearns.
Wow.
And we had lessons back to back, but because of the bus schedule on Farmington Avenue, we would miss each other. We didn't find out till maybe 2 years ago that we were like same, you know, he was really, and then it turns out too that the man also was my father's aunt's vocal coach back in the 30s or 40s or whatever, back way back when. Esther Deloach Watson. Esther Deloach Watson. She was an operatic singer. And he was her pianist and her coach. But again, these are just stories. It's just, I don't know.
Wow.
It's
So
wild.
so you have such a rich,
Yes, very rich. It's a
very rich history. And oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I never
I
even
know.
imagined. I just love the voice. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I
you
came
opened
in
the Pandora's box. I'm sorry.
I came in here.
Yes.
And I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I
There is a 4 o'clock?
yeah, there is a 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm saying, my God, what am I going to talk to him about? Because I really don't know anything about him. But I thought of this book, and I said we could do something with this book because he is a teacher. He went through radio and knows people. I said, good to go. So I went through this. I said, this is what we're gonna do. But if I know there's richness and there's probably most people don't even know this about you.
They don't.
Oh, you know, our show is over. But wait a
Okay.
minute. Before we go, I just want to say that I'm really happy that you came on the show, and your voice. You know, when I talk, it's like I talk, and it's not. It's oh Cleo, you know, I've been hearing that a while. Oh please, Cleo. You know, so I got that Cleo kind of voice. But there's nothing in your voice that says positive, negative, this and that. He's this, he's that. That's that kind of voice, or that's this kind of voice. It's just a voice. It's just a voice that does not. It really
Doesn't belong to anything.
and that's such a wonderful thing. It's it's not a kind of a racist voice. It's not kind of I'm better, I'm not better. It's just an accepting voice. It just goes out and into the universe, and I just think that that's so wonderful to have a wonderful voice like that. And I've always loved it since the first time I heard it.
Thank you.
So now I know that I'm a little over time, but I had to say a little bit of something to Tom before we left. And thank you for being with us today. And you remember, read a little, write a little, dream big, and I'll see you next week.